Usually, lawsuits are filed when somebody has done or is currently doing somebody wrong. But that's not the only time a lawsuit can be filed. There are plenty of examples of people filing lawsuits for silly reasons and winning. A lot of said lawsuits are involving sports-related issues. Join us as we talk about some sports lawsuits that not only somehow made it into the court, but actually won. First, let's talk about MIA's half-show lawsuit. Since 1967, there's been a musical guest that performs during the halftime show of every Super Bowl. At the 2012 Super Bowl, fans were given a performance from many different artists. First came 80s superstar Madonna, who was followed up by huge acts for the time, such as LMFAO, Nicki Minaj, and MIA. During the performance, CeeLo Green made an appearance as well. While such a star-studded performance should be enough to get people to talk for ages, it was what happened towards the end of the performance that keeps the event fresh in people's minds. During the performance, MIA noticed that the cameras were on her and decided to flip them off. The NFL could not move quick enough to blur the finger, and it aired publicly to many people's dismay. Angry posts spread through the internet, as well as many apologies from the NFL. The whole thing ended with a lawsuit against MIA that asked for $16 million from the singer. MIA described the whole situation as a massive waste of time and money. She also jokingly tweeted at Madonna asking to borrow $16 million, but later deleted it. Next, let's talk about the WWE versus the WWF. The younger generation of wrestling fans knows the organization that puts their favorite wrestlers in the ring as WWE, or Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment. This was not always the case. There was a time in history when they were known as the Worldwide Wrestling Foundation. In fact, it wasn't that long ago. The name change only came around in 2002. Before the change, the Worldwide Wrestling Foundation was one of two WWFs, with the World Wildlife Foundation being the second. Originally, the two lived together in unity, but in the early 2000s, the Worldwide Wrestling Foundation was hit with a lawsuit by the Worldwide Wildlife Foundation. The lawsuit had to do with merchandise and overseas trademarking. There was a settlement reached between the two. We know there was money involved, we just don't know how much. The Worldwide Wrestling Foundation became World Wrestling Entertainment, switching to just WWE officially in 2011. The settlement was not the only thing they agreed upon. WWE was also ordered by the court to remove any and all references to their time as the Worldwide Wrestling Foundation. Not court-ordered was their new slogan, which then became, "Get the F out." Now, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills newsletter lawsuit. There have been many times when at one point in their lives, people signed up for a newsletter for something they thought they'd enjoy and instantly regretted it. Usually, they either send one too many emails or the emails they send are absolutely useless. For a Bills fan by the name of Jerry Wojcik, the former was the problem. Wojcik was a big fan of the Bills, big enough to sign up for the newsletter. The terms of service said that no more than 5 messages per week. First, they broke that promise by sending him 6 messages, which they broke by sending 7 messages in 1 week, which was the turning point for Wojcik, who took the Buffalo Bills to court. Wojcik filed a $3 million lawsuit. When he won, the $3 million was broken into bunches and divided between all of the people who signed up for the Buffalo Bills newsletter. The payment was delivered as prepaid debit cards that could only be used to buy merchandise from the Buffalo Bills, either online or at the stadium. Wojcik earned an extra $5,000 for being the one to take them to court after he filed the suit. Moving on, let's talk about the Tiger Woods suit lawsuit. In 2010, when Tiger Woods was in his prime, a fan by the name of Jason Goodwin thought it would be a great idea to wear a onesie Tiger costume to the TPC Boston tournament. Things didn't go as smoothly as he imagined they would. Despite Goodwin claiming that he was given permission to wear the costume ahead of the game, he was still evacuated from the tournament because of Woods' playing partner Angel Cabrera, who claimed that the costume was too bright and bothersome. Of course, Cabrera's complaint was taken more seriously than the fan, while many would have simply left the tournament in anger. Goodwin decided that he would strike back against the PGA, which he did by filing a lawsuit against them. Goodwin took the PGA to court with a lawsuit that said by forcing him to leave the game, they were infringing upon his civil rights. Goodwin sought $7,000 in damages. The reasoning for this price is that it was the highest amount that one can ask for in small claims court. According to Goodwin, his reason for taking the PGA to court was to give people the right to wear what they'd like to wear. Let's now talk about some kids who felt they should have made the team. Anybody who's ever tried out for a sports team in school only to be rejected or cut by the coaches knows exactly how incredibly frustrating you might just feel and want to sue. Nobody knows this more than some kids from Toronto who tried out for the Greater Toronto Hockey League and ended up on the chopping board after spring tryouts. To be fair, it wasn't the children who filed the lawsuit, but their parents. It wasn't just one set of parents, but 2 who filed the lawsuit. They didn't file it against the team, but instead against the coach, who prior to the kids getting cut was suspended. The kids were cut in 2010. With the kids being cut 1 year later, the league came to the defense of the coaches, saying that they had not broken any suspension by cutting the kids. After some time arguing back and forth, the league and the parents did end up coming to a settlement. The parents received a cash settlement of an amount of money they felt fitting. Despite a settlement being reached, the league did not change its standpoint, and the kids remained off the team. Let's talk about an attacker who sued his victim. During a Flyers game that took place in 2001, a very dedicated Flyers fan decided that he was going to take it upon himself to climb into the penalty box and attack Ty Domi, who played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Many of the Flyers fans were taunting the players on the opposite team, Domi especially, but none of them would have ever thought to actually go up to Domi and physically assault him. Thankfully, no damage was done to Domi, as officials quickly rushed in and made sure things didn't get any more out of hand than they already were. After it was over, it was forgotten for 2 years until a lawsuit was filed by one of the two. It was, of course, the attacker who was suing Domi. The attacker claimed that during the incident, he had gotten the heck beat out of him. He also said that he was left with a gash on his head and had to go to the hospital. The attacker said that while his hospital bills were not as big as hospital bills usually are, somebody still had to pay for them, and it would not be him. Finally, let's talk about a fan who sued over a bad coaching move. It's not a rarity for people to get very upset while watching sports. They always have and they always will. Some people curse at their television screen, others yell, and even throw things. One sports lover by the name of Larry McGinnis took it to the extremest of extremes when he sued the Spurs for, as he claimed, internationally and surreptitiously sent all of the best characters in the game home without having any knowledge of the league team. He also said they did not consider the means of the fans who attended the game. They filed a lawsuit and claimed that in doing so, the Spurs were in violation of Florida's Deceptive and Fair Trade Practices law. McGinnis's biggest complaints in the suit were that he sent home 4 athletes that were on the team. Those athletes are Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Danny Green, and Tony Parker. McGinnis stood by his argument very firmly in the beginning, but by the end of things, in the Miami-Dade Circuit Court, he filed notice which would voluntarily dismiss the case. The lawsuit was only active for 3 months before McGinnis put it behind him without any explanation or warning. Sports can make people do some crazy things. Maybe they get into fights with good friends, or bet way more than they actually have. Everybody does crazy things. Some people are just prone to do crazier things than most. Do you think any were justified? Let us know down below.